Hello there my dear friends and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So today we've got some pretty wild Star Wars updates to discuss. We're going to be talking about Dave Filoni's Mandoverse movie, Rian Johnson will not confirm if he's definitely quitting Star Wars for good, and we've also got some new comments from Kelly Marie Tran, Rose Tico herself from the sequel trilogy. So plenty to talk about, and if you've not done so already my dear friends, please be sure to hit the big subscribe button down below, really helps me out. We would be honoured if you would join us, and make sure to give the bell a good old tickle to be alerted every time that I post a new video. But no more jibber jabber, shall we get on with it? Let's go. So Dave Filoni's Star Wars movie, a Mandoverse crossover event that is set to bring together characters from The Mandalorian TV show, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew and the Book of Boba Fett. Is it ever gonna happen? A few days ago, The Hollywood Reporter stated, it's on the back burner. I was doubtful about this, I still am, not because I don't think it's been pushed back, but because we don't know for certain. I don't think anyone who claims to have sources on this knows what they're talking about. And today is very much the same, because we have a new update from Daniel RPK, who says Dave Filoni's Mandoverse crossover movie is being reworked into a limited series for Disney+. My initial reaction, this is probably just fan math, just a guess. Insiders don't know, Dave Filoni doesn't know, because the future of the Mandoverse generally is dependent on two things, the performance of the Mandalorian and Grogu, and Ahsoka Season 2. If we're being realistic, it isn't a bad guess, and I'm sure these conversations, considerations of different mediums for future Mandoverse stories, are happening inside of Lucasfilm. But we have no indication this is for definite, and even the source of this, Daniel RPK, says it depends on the performance of the Mando movie. But yes, it is a possibility, but I don't think that's the approach going forward. Unless it's going to be a Tales of Anthology or an animated show, I don't think going forward Disney's going to give Lucasfilm the budget for something of this importance for a TV show. It's very clear from the data and the analytics, Disney Plus Star Wars was not a profitable experiment. They're gonna want this on the big screen. It's the Mandoverse crossover movie, so it's gonna have to be big, it's gonna have to be bold, and I don't think you can do it on a budget. So, at this update, I shrug. It wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. Plenty of Star Wars fans are now used to the Disney Plus format, but they have to get the story right, and it's gotta look as impressive as if it was on the big screen. Can they do it? Depends on if Disney wants to spend that money. But right now, until this is corroborated by other sources, I'm going to assume Dave's movie is going to stay a movie. But moving on my dear friends. So Rian Johnson, the director and writer of The Last Jedi, everyone's favourite Star Wars movie, has reacted to Kathleen Kennedy's exit. About a week ago, Kathy did her goodbye interview with Deadline.com, and she said the reason Rian Johnson never made his Star Wars trilogy after Episode 8 is because he was spooked. And then in response to this, Rian himself took to social media and he said, sorry, I wasn't spooked. Well, in the wake of those comments, Rian has opened up about Kathy once again at Sundance 2026. And the crazy part is he's not ready to let Star Wars go. He's not done with the franchise and it doesn't sound like he's ready to call it quits. He's not ready to admit his trilogy is never gonna happen. Instead, he alludes to coming back someday, which honestly is pretty insane. Don't think it's gonna happen, but let's take a look at his comments. In a panel promoting The Only Living Pickpocket in New York, something which he produced, Rian had some pretty kind remarks in regards to Kathy's exit. Here's what he said. I love Kathy. I'm excited now to see what she does next. As a Star Wars fan, the most exciting thing for me is seeing when they bring in fresh voices and fresh filmmakers to come in and tell new stories in that world. And for better or for worse, if you want to talk about Star Wars that deviates from the standard equation and style of storytelling that we know from the galaxy far, far away, it doesn't get more different and deconstructed than The Last Jedi. So I guess it makes sense that Rian wants to see more filmmakers come in and take risks. I don't necessarily know how much Filoni's on board with that idea, to be honest. Like I said the other day, Dave hasn't given a single interview since he took over as co-president, so we really don't know the kinds of movies he has in mind. People like to joke he's going to make everything about Ahsoka and the New Republic, more Clone Wars and Rebels characters, but honestly guys, I think it's far too easy to underestimate Dave. Ever since Ahsoka came out in 2023, we've really been shortchanging him, but for all we know he has some really cool ideas in mind, some awesome new characters and unexplored periods of the timeline. I might regret saying this, but I think he might surprise us. So as Obi-Wan would say, patience. That being said, the Star Wars fandom never lets us down with memes. I came across this one, which is an AI-generated roadmap of the future of Star Wars according to Dave, and every single project from 2026 to the fricking 2030s is all Ahsoka related. I mean, come on, even if you love Dave, you have to admit this is pretty hilarious. But no, I'm actually in agreement with Rian Johnson for once, that I hope Dave brings in fresh new voices and does something which we're not expecting, expand the Star Wars universe in a way that Kathy never tried. And it is worth pointing out, Dave Filoni views Rian Johnson as an inspiration. I actually mentioned this about a year ago and people said that's not true, but in March of 2023, just before The Mandalorian's 3rd season, Dave Filoni admitted to The Hollywood Reporter that he shadowed Rian Johnson on episode 8. Dave says, "Rian was the one who shoved me up front, sticking lenses in my hand and really getting me immersed in it. And so I still talk to him to this day. He's obviously a very talented filmmaker, and I was just very fortunate to be in such an environment where I could sit down and listen and learn." In the same interview, Dave Filoni calls Rian Johnson a personal inspiration. And even though we like to think of the sequels and the Mandoverse being very separate, the truth is, Dave loved the sequel trilogy. And the next comment by Rian Johnson at Sundance makes me think his trilogy, or at least another Rian Johnson Star Wars movie, might be possible if Dave wants it to happen. On his experience working on The Last Jedi, he said this, "I had the time of my life doing it. I am now an even bigger Star Wars fan than I was when going into it. I would feel blessed if that were ever to happen again." So while Kathy kind of put the nail in the coffin, and we had an update a month or two ago that said, Rian Johnson's trilogy is finished, it's over. With Dave, there's always a chance things change, but I don't think Disney would allow Rian to come back. The damage he did with The Last Jedi, the fan reception to it, the way it fractured the fandom, and we haven't recovered since, I don't think Alan Bergman, and whoever's going to take over from Disney after Bob Iger, who's going to step down soon by the way, would allow him to come back. But I find it interesting that Rian is optimistic, the fact he's hinting the door might still be open. But I still believe, for all intents and purposes, his trilogy is still dead. But Rian isn't the only person who worked on The Last Jedi who spoke about Kathy's exit. At the same event, at Sundance, Kelly Marie Tran, Rose Tico herself, gave a personal tribute to Kathleen Kennedy. And she said this, "She's had such an incredible career. To have someone who's not just a woman, but who is so capable in that role for so long, it's historic. And I think that it's such a loss, but I'm very happy for all of the life changes that she's making." Now, a couple of things to note. It's a rare thing to hear Kelly Marie Tran talk about Star Wars in 2026, implying Kathy made Star Wars great, saying that her departure is a huge loss for Star Wars. As a fandom, for the most part, we've taken the news of Kathy's exit as a very good thing. The start of hopefully a better, more prosperous era. But of course, because Kathy is the reason Kelly Marie Tran was in Star Wars, I know she didn't have the best experience with the fans and on The Last Jedi, the backlash to it and so on, but it really boosted her career. And like I say, Kelly Marie Tran isn't active on social media the way she used to be once upon a time, and it's exceedingly rare to hear her talk about Star Wars these days. But a year ago she did give a very big interview about it, reflecting on the good and the bad. She said, "I wouldn't be who I am today without it. Going through therapy and counseling got me to a point where now I get to make art celebrating parts of myself I was taught to be ashamed of." And here's the thing, as an actor she did her job, she's blameless, but I would argue Rian Johnson, with his writing, and Lucasfilm did her so dirty. It was her first major acting role, and just like Laura Dern's character, Holdo, they gave a good actress a very dislikable character with some really awful lines. And I remember when The Last Jedi first came out, people were saying that these characters are so badly written, they make Jar Jar Binks look good, and that's never something you want to hear. And you want to know my first reaction when I first saw Rose Tico? I found her sister Paige, who only appeared at the start of the movie for a few seconds before her sacrifice, far more interesting as a character. And Kelly wasn't just done dirty in episode 8, but also in episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. She was literally reduced to a couple of lines of dialogue. Finn acts as if they've never met, and she's basically a background character. But she still thanks Kathy for what being in Star Wars did for her career. But anyway, I digress. Those were the reactions of Rian Johnson and Kelly Marie Tran for Kathleen Kennedy's exit. Hopefully on to brighter and better days for Star Wars. I'm rooting for Dave. I think if he makes the right next steps, he can really salvage some of what's been lost in the last few years. But what do you guys think? Share your thoughts on all of today's updates in the comments down below. Do you think Rian Johnson's trilogy is dead? Oh my goodness, how many times have we spoken about this? And what do you make of his reaction and that of Kelly Marie Tran? And if you enjoyed this one, my friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the force be with you, always.